place your trust in me. You have no one else. Dolores, she can hear, so keep your voice down. Pretty well, let's just say he likes to play games. Bonnie helps keep him calm when out of order. Foxy's there all along in the dark. Do you understand?
7-foot frame, rats along his back. When he calls your name, it all fades to black.
Give it to your sister's stronger. See if she can hang on a little longer. Who am I if I can't carry it all? If I falter under the surface, I had my nerves and it worsens. I worry something. Like a drip, drip, drip that'll never stop. Whoa. Make sure that'll tip, tip, tip till you just go pop. Whoa. Give it to your sister, it doesn't hurt. And see if she can handle every family burden. Watch as she buckles and bends, but never breaks. No mistakes.
Go to live in fear, Bruno stuttering or stumbling. I can always hear him sort of muttering and mumbling. I associate him with the sound of falling sand. It's a heavy lift with the gift so humbling. Always left abuela in the family fumbling, grappling with prophecies they couldn't understand. Do you understand?
7-foot frame, rats along his back. When he calls your name, it all fades to black. Yeah, he sees your dreams, he feasts on your screams. We don't talk about Bruno, no, no, no. We don't talk about Bruno.
Oh my god, we could spend so much time talking about the generational trauma in Encanto, and you know what? We're going to. A lot of you watched my last video and wanted me to elaborate more on the specific traumas that we can see in the family, so let's jump right in. Let's start with Abuela. Some really traumatic shit happens to her at a very young age, which sort of kicks off this whole generational trauma. And I know that she acted very poorly in the movie and probably made a lot of us cry. But we have to remember these things don't start from nothing. Some really horrific things happened to her at a very young age. She was left with 3 children all alone, and she built up walls and defenses to protect herself and her family. Now we can talk about displacement and colonization and how she was probably super young when she got married and how trauma affects an adolescent brain, but like that would take a lot of time, and I think you guys all know what I'm getting at. Now it doesn't excuse her actions later because change is always possible, but I think a lot of us know how difficult trauma can be to break from. Julieta has taken the role of fixing everyone's problems. She also strikes me as the peacekeeper of the family. We'll talk about Pepa and Bruno later, but one is anxious and one is ostracized from the family, and she's the only one who's able to keep this like stable facade. She also heals people with food, which I think is very interesting. She literally shows her love through food, which is such a Latin and POC thing to do. At one point, Mirabel even says, "You healed my hand with an arepa con queso," and she says, "No, I healed your hand with love for my daughter." So she clearly ties the two together. And while she's clearly capable of showing her love in other ways, she's obviously very affectionate and cuddly with her children. I do think a lot of us know that relative who can only really show their love through food. Also, if you feel like she didn't have much of a personality, I feel like that's also deliberate. When you're the peacekeeper of the family, the mediator, you're literally in the middle. You have to be very neutral, and while I do think she tries to stand up for her daughter, it's not with much commitment. And it's actually later more the dad that stands up to the abuela on Mirabel's behalf. And he married into the family, you know? Tia Pepa's my favorite. I resonate a lot with her. She's obviously a highly emotional person. We see this time and time again, and we see time and time again her mother tell her to shut that down. Even when she's just got like a little rain cloud on herself and it's not affecting anyone else, it's not good. It's embarrassing. No one outside the family can know about these big emotions, and they're always telling her to like shoo it away. The poor woman has to be like clear skies no matter what she's feeling. She has to put on this front for other people despite what she might be feeling in the moment. We later find out that her brother Bruno and her husband have been trying to get her to embrace her emotions for a long time, but she obviously doesn't feel comfortable doing that in this family. She even seems like she might have an anxiety disorder or even be prone to depression, but it's very much shoved under the table and not discussed because we don't talk about things like that. Bruno, we don't talk about Bruno, so let's move on. I'm just kidding. Bruno's the first black sheep of the family. He leaves and he's literally never talked about again. There's an entire song, "We Don't Talk About Bruno." This happens a lot in families. Relatives are seen as losing their way and they're basically disowned. It can happen for a lot of reasons, but it usually stems from going against the familial norm. Maybe they asked too many questions about the family's political beliefs or disagreed with their religion. Maybe they were part of the LGBTQIA community. Basically, they go against the way things have always been. Bruno's able to see things that his family doesn't. He views the world differently, and that's not okay, so he has to leave, despite having nothing but love for the family. Oh crap, I've run out of time. I hate part 2s, but I'm sorry, we're gonna have to do a part 2. Okay, in part 2, we're gonna talk about the trauma in the younger generation of Encanto. Dolores, is, Dolores hears everyone's secrets, but she's the quietest other than Antonio, which we will talk about later. For most of the movie, she barely speaks over a whisper, and I think that's because she was probably told to shut up her entire life. Imagine, she hears all the family secrets, and she started hearing them at a very young age when she probably didn't really know how to control her power. And she's just getting flooded with all this information, and she doesn't know what's okay or not okay to talk about. So she was probably told to cállate, cállate, cállate. She knew too much, she talked too much, and was probably told to be quiet. As a result, she finds it difficult to express herself and has become this quiet little reserved mouse. She even squeaks like a mouse. Isabela's the beautiful one, the perfect one, the golden child of the family, and is expected to preserve that status, so she will literally do anything that the family needs her to do, including marrying a man she doesn't want to marry because that's what the family needs her to do. She has to marry up to preserve the miracle and increase her family's status in the community. And it's expected especially of her because she won the genetic lottery in looks and charm. That expectation to be constantly perfect is exhausting and unsustainable. She can't be herself, she doesn't even know who that is because she's been thrust into this very specific position within the family. Our girl Luisa, she is stuck with carrying the burden of her entire family on her back, almost literally. She's the strong one, she absorbs the family burden. She's the one people turn to in a crisis to help them, to protect them, to save them. They depend on her to carry them through. She is the epitome of overtired, overworked, and underappreciated. She's unable to just be a young girl, to ask for help, to cry. She internalizes a lot and it's suffocating her. A lot of you guys resonated with her. Camilo mirrors. Have you noticed that until the end of the movie, we rarely see him as himself? Instead, he's always shifting into what others expect or want him to be. He does it to help, but he's rarely just himself. He's charming and funny, and in the first song they say something along the lines of, he won't stop until he makes you smile today. But at what cost? Who does the kid really want to be? Does he even know? Our girl Mirabel is the new generation black sheep of the family. She doesn't quite fit in. There's something different about her, there's something new about her, and it's a bit unsettling to the rest of the family. Despite the fact that she does everything in her power to try to help the family, to impress them, to get noticed. She's the type of kid who would have gotten an A and they would have said, why not A+? Or been in the school play, but not the lead. Always measuring just a little short of what would impress the family. But people like this are super important because obviously she was the only one who was able to break through that generational cycle of trauma. And finally, Tonino, the cutest animation I've ever seen in my goddamn life. Oh my god, he's so adorable. He's very quiet and it's much more subtle, but this was my take. You can let me know what you think. I think that Antonio's a very sensitive, shy little boy. He barely speaks to anyone except Mirabel. In the beginning, he's hiding even from his own family. He's a hugger, a snuggler, obviously very physically affectionate, and very openly vulnerable in the way that young children can be. I think that's probably not looked on very kindly by the older generations. I think his family's probably fine with it, but abuela, I feel like he's probably been told not to be so sensitive and some sort of version of man up, even though he's just a little boy. I think him being able to talk to animals is because he can't talk to anybody else in his family. So he can stay quiet, stay sensitive, but still have an outlet. I'm running out of time, so...
Forever now I drive alone past your street.
Oh my god, I just cried the entire time I was in the shower. It can't get worse than this. It's so downhill for me.
Realizing that probably a lot of Latino households got into an argument on Smiz about generational trauma after watching Disney's Encanto.
I never wanted to marry him. I was doing it for the family.
You're gonna look at me and you're gonna tell me that I'm wrong? Am I wrong? She wore a crown and she came down in a bubble, dog. I'm not fighting with you.
Like a drip, drip, drip that'll never stop. Whoa. Pressure that'll tip, tip, tip till you just go pop. Whoa. That'll tip, tip, tip till you just go pop. Whoa. Give it to your sister, it doesn't hurt, and see if she can handle every family burden. Watch as she buckles and bends, but never breaks. Like a drip, drip, drip that'll never stop. Whoa. Pressure that'll tip, tip, tip till you just go pop. Whoa. Give it to your sister, it doesn't hurt, and see if she can handle every family burden. Watch as she buckles and bends, but never breaks. No mistake.
I just finished watching Encanto, and I want you guys to know that grandma is not, she's not the villain. She's a victim too. And if I get cancels for it, I'm an abuela apologist. I don't care. I don't care. This woman deserves so much more.
Oi. Who? Ha. Ta.
Drawing in Encanto style. It's a work in progress, but still looks sick so far. I decided to just make a whole new character. Butters cried watching it on YouTube lol. Whoa ho ho. Hi.
Why are we drawing this child like he was doused in Fair and Lovely? Why? We can't make the excuse that we don't know how to draw black people. We really can't. Not hitting 2022, we cannot. Riddle me this. You can draw Dolores and Camilo, but you can't draw Antonio? They're all siblings, they're all Afro-Latino. That makes no sense. The math is not mathing for this one.
If you are LGBT and you saw the movie Encanto, you are either sexually attracted to big strong lady or tiny rat man. There is no in between, there's no exceptions. There is
Fall to pressure like a grip, 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 and it won't let go. Whoa. Pressure like a tick, tick, tick till it's ready to blow. Whoa.
Bumbling, grappling with prophecies they couldn't understand. Do you understand?